You've been operating under a fundamental misunderstanding about how reality works. And that misunderstanding has cost you years of effort, energy, and outcomes that should have materialized but didn't. Right now, as you take in these words, you're probably engaged in dozens of subtle control mechanisms, planning how tomorrow should unfold, rehearsing conversations that haven't happened yet, trying to influence outcomes through mental effort, attempting to arrange circumstances into configurations that match your preferences. This feels productive. It feels like you're taking charge of your life, being proactive, making things happen. But here's what I need you to understand. Every ounce of energy you invest in controlling reality is energy that prevents reality from reflecting you. Not because control is morally wrong or spiritually unenlightened, but because of how the quantum field actually responds to consciousness. And what it responds to isn't your efforts to control outcomes. It responds to what you are when you're not trying to control anything. The quantum field is a mirror, and right now, it's reflecting your control, your fear, your force. Stop trying to control the mirror. Let reality show you what happens when you finally release your grip.
Let me explain the mechanism that changes everything once you understand it. Reality, at the quantum level, exists as probability fields, infinite possible configurations waiting to crystallize into experienced outcomes. Your consciousness interfaces with these probability fields constantly, and that interface determines which possibilities actualize. But here's the critical part that manifestation teaching gets backwards. The interface isn't happening through your conscious intentions, your visualizations, your affirmations, or your attempts to direct outcomes. The interface is happening through your base frequency, the electromagnetic signature your system broadcasts, when nothing is being forced, when no agenda is active, when you're simply being rather than doing. Think of it like this. When you try to control reality, you're broadcasting two simultaneous signals. The first signal is your desire for a specific outcome. The second signal is the frequency of the state you're in while trying to control that outcome. And that second signal always contains fear, doubt, lack, and the implicit assumption that reality won't organize itself correctly without your intervention. The quantum field reads both signals, but it responds primarily to the second one because that's your actual state, your authentic frequency, not what you want, but what you are in the moment of wanting. This is why control-based manifestation fails so consistently. You're trying to project an outcome while simultaneously broadcasting the frequency of someone who doesn't trust reality to deliver that outcome. And the field responds to the mistrust, the control, the fear underneath the desire. It mirrors back exactly what you are, someone trying to force reality into compliance because deep down you believe reality is working against you, or at best indifferent to you. I discovered this the hard way, after 3 years of intense manifestation practice that produced sporadic results at best. I'd studied every technique, every teacher, every approach. I visualized daily. I scripted, I affirmed, I maintained positive focus. And occasionally things would manifest just often enough to keep me believing the system worked. But the big things I wanted, the fundamental life changes I was working toward, they remained stubbornly out of reach. I kept thinking I wasn't doing the techniques correctly, wasn't holding the vision clearly enough, wasn't maintaining my vibration consistently enough. Then something happened that wasn't part of any manifestation protocol. I got sick. Not seriously, just a bad flu that knocked me completely out of commission for 5 days. I was too exhausted to visualize, too foggy to affirm, too depleted to maintain any kind of positive mental state. I stopped trying to control anything because I literally didn't have the energy. I just existed, slept, recovered, with zero agenda about my life or my manifestations. On the 6th day, I woke up feeling better physically, and I checked my phone to find an email that changed everything. An opportunity I'd wanted for months had materialized, but not through any of the channels I'd been trying to control. It came through a connection I didn't even know existed, from a person I'd met once briefly and hadn't thought about since. The opportunity was exactly what I'd been visualizing, but it arrived through a pathway I couldn't have planned or controlled because I hadn't known it was there. My first reaction was gratitude mixed with relief. My second reaction was confusion. Why now? Why did this manifest during the 5 days I'd completely stopped trying to make anything happen? I went back through my manifestation journal and noticed a pattern I'd been too close to see before. Every significant manifestation in my life had occurred during periods when I'd stopped trying to control outcomes. Not given up on desires, but released the mechanism of control. Stopped forcing, stopped directing, stopped managing every variable. The smaller manifestations, the ones that came through my active practice, those were always things that didn't matter as much. Parking spaces, small amounts of money, minor conveniences. But the life-changing manifestations, the relationship, the career opportunity, the health breakthrough, every single one had arrived during periods of surrender, not control. This shouldn't have been possible according to everything I'd learned about manifestation. I was supposed to be the creator of my reality, the director of my experience, the one who used consciousness to shape outcomes. But the evidence was clear. When I tried to create, direct, and shape outcomes through control, I got minimal results. When I stopped trying and simply existed in whatever state was natural to me, reality reorganized itself around me in ways I couldn't have orchestrated. I started researching the physics behind this pattern, looking for an explanation that went beyond let go and trust the universe. And I found it in the way quantum systems respond to observation. The observer effect shows that consciousness influences quantum outcomes, but not through force or intention, through presence. The act of observation itself collapses probability waves into specific states. But the nature of that observation, the state of the observer, determines which possibilities become actual. When you observe reality while trying to control it, you're in a state of tension. Your system is broadcasting a frequency of effort, force, manipulation, fear that outcomes won't materialize without your intervention. The quantum field responds to that state by actualizing outcomes that match tension, effort, and the need for control. You get results that require force, opportunities that demand exhausting effort, relationships that need constant management. The field is mirroring your state perfectly. But when you observe reality without trying to control it, when you're simply present to what is, without agenda about what should be, your system broadcasts a completely different frequency. Ease, trust, sufficiency, the implicit knowing that you're okay, regardless of what happens. And the quantum field responds to that state by actualizing outcomes that reflect ease, trust, and natural unfolding. You get results that arrive effortlessly, opportunities that open organically, relationships that flow naturally. The field isn't responding to what you want, it's mirroring what you are when you're not trying to get what you want. This is the mechanism that no one teaches because it undermines the entire control-based approach to manifestation. You can't force reality to mirror something you're not. And when you're trying to force reality, what you are is someone in a state of force. The mirroring is perfect. You just don't like what's being reflected. Let me show you how this plays out in specific areas where control creates exactly what you don't want. You want a relationship, so you start controlling. You manage how you present yourself. You calculate when to text and when to wait. You perform the version of yourself you think will attract what you want. You try to guide interactions toward specific outcomes. Every move is strategic, designed to create the relationship result you desire. And what's the result? Either the relationship doesn't materialize, or it materializes in a form that requires constant control to maintain. Because the frequency you were broadcasting while trying to control the outcome was the frequency of someone who doesn't trust themselves to be wanted as they actually are. Someone who believes they need to manage, perform, and strategize to be loved. The field mirrored that back perfectly by giving you a relationship that confirms those beliefs. A relationship where you can't relax, can't be authentic, must continue controlling to keep what you created through control. I watched this play out in my own patterns for years before I understood the mechanism. Every relationship I'd tried to make happen through strategic behavior ended the same way, with me exhausted from maintaining the performance and the other person eventually sensing the inauthenticity underneath. But the one relationship that actually worked, the one that lasted and deepened naturally, that one started during a period when I'd completely stopped trying to attract anyone. I'd been single for 8 months and had finally reached a state of genuine contentment with it. Not resignation, not giving up, actual contentment. I was enjoying my own company, building a life I loved, no agenda about meeting someone, and that's when she appeared. Not through any dating app I was actively using, not through any social event I'd attended hoping to meet someone. She was a friend of a colleague, and we met randomly at a group dinner I'd almost skipped because I was tired. The entire relationship unfolded with zero control from me. I didn't strategize, I didn't perform, I didn't try to guide outcomes, I just responded authentically to what was happening. When I wanted to reach out, I did. When I didn't, I didn't. When I felt like being vulnerable, I was. When I needed space, I took it. No calculation, no management, no control. And the relationship that emerged from that authentic responsiveness was nothing like the ones I'd tried to create through control. It was easy, natural. It grew organically into exactly what I'd wanted all along, but could never manifest when I was trying to make it happen. The difference wasn't the person, the difference was my state. When I was trying to control relationship outcomes, I was broadcasting, I need to manipulate circumstances because I don't trust myself to be wanted naturally. When I stopped trying to control anything, I was broadcasting, I'm complete as I am and open to connection without needing it. The field mirrored both states perfectly. The first state attracted situations that confirmed my need to control. The second state attracted a person who responded to my authentic frequency rather than my performed behavior. In the comments, drop one word that represents the area of your life where you've been controlling the hardest. Maybe it's relationship, maybe it's money, maybe it's health, maybe it's career. Let that word be your recognition point for where control is blocking the very thing you're trying to create. The same mechanism operates with financial manifestation, but it's even more obvious once you see it. When you try to control money outcomes, what state are you in? Anxiety about not having enough. Fear that opportunities won't appear. Pressure to make things happen. Constant mental calculation about how to create income. That state, that frequency of anxiety and pressure and force, is what the quantum field responds to. And what does it mirror back? Financial situations that require anxiety, pressure, and force. Money that comes through exhausting effort. Opportunities that demand constant hustling. Clients or customers who need extensive convincing. Income that feels precarious, like it will disappear if you stop pushing. The field is being a perfect mirror. You're in a state of financial scarcity while trying to control your way to abundance. And scarcity is what gets reflected back, regardless of how many abundance affirmations you're repeating. I saw this clearly in my own business patterns. For 2 years, I ran my business with a control-based approach. I managed every detail, tried to force every outcome, pushed for every sale, calculated every strategy. My income was moderate, but unstable. Every month was a fight. I was working 60-hour weeks and barely maintaining financial stability. The manifestation teaching told me I needed to visualize more, raise my vibration, take more aligned action. So I did all of that while maintaining the control mechanisms. Nothing changed. Then I made a decision that felt completely counterintuitive. I started taking Fridays off. Completely off. No email, no work, no business thinking. I'd go hiking, or read, or just exist without any agenda. The first few Fridays were torture. My mind was screaming that I couldn't afford this, that I'd lose opportunities, that clients would go elsewhere, that taking time off when money was tight was irresponsible. But something interesting happened. On the Friday afternoons, When I was hiking with zero business agenda, completely disconnected from trying to control outcomes, my mind would quiet, and in that quiet, creative ideas would emerge. Not forced ideas, not strategic calculations, just natural clarity about directions I could explore. I wasn't trying to figure anything out. The insights just arose when I stopped trying to control my way to them. More importantly, my state shifted. For those few hours every Friday, I wasn't in anxiety about money. I was in genuine ease, present to hiking, to nature, to simply being alive without agenda. And that state started extending into the rest of my week. I found myself less reactive, less controlling, more responsive to what was actually happening, rather than trying to force what I wanted to happen. Within 3 months, my income had increased by 40%, not through working more hours or implementing better strategies, through working fewer hours and releasing control. Opportunities started appearing through channels I hadn't been monitoring. Clients reached out who I hadn't tried to attract. Projects materialized that I hadn't pursued. And all of it felt easy in a way my previous control-based business never had. The difference was the frequency I was broadcasting. When I was trying to control every financial outcome, I was in a state of scarcity, fear, and pressure. When I released control and allowed myself to exist in ease for those Friday periods, I was broadcasting sufficiency, trust, and natural flow. The field mirrored both states with precision. The first state attracted financial situations that required force and produced instability. The second state attracted financial opportunities that unfolded organically and produced stability. Before we go deeper, I want to invite you into something real. If you've been sensing that your control mechanisms are blocking your manifestations, if part of you is recognizing the exhaustion of trying to force reality, hit like if you just had a moment of recognition, and subscribe. Stay connected to this space. Grow with us. We're not just watching content here, we're practicing new ways of being. We're not just learning techniques, we're remembering our natural relationship with reality. The health realm shows the mirroring mechanism most dramatically because the body is literally you. When you try to control your health through anxiety, hypervigilance, and obsessive management, your body responds by expressing the exact frequency you're broadcasting. Stress, tension, dysregulation. You're trying to control your way to health while being in a state of health anxiety. And the body mirrors that anxious state through symptoms, inflammation, and dysfunction. I experienced this directly when I developed chronic tension headaches in my mid-30s. I did everything the control-based approach suggested. I tracked triggers meticulously. I managed my environment carefully. I tried every supplement, every therapy, every technique designed to eliminate the headaches. The more I tried to control my way to being headache-free, the more frequent and intense the headaches became. Then I had a conversation with a doctor who asked me a question no one had asked before. What are you trying to avoid feeling when you get a headache? The question confused me. I wasn't trying to avoid feeling anything. I was trying to get rid of pain. But he pushed. When the headache comes, what do you immediately do? I described my response pattern. I'd stop whatever I was doing, take medication, lie down, try to breathe it away, mentally scan for what might have triggered it, make plans to avoid that trigger in the future. He pointed out that all of that was control behavior, and underneath the control was fear. Fear that the pain would get worse, fear that it meant something was wrong with me, fear that I couldn't function normally, fear that I'd never be free of this pattern. He suggested an experiment. Next time a headache started, instead of trying to control it or make it go away, just let it be there. Feel it completely. Stop resisting it. Stop trying to fix it. Just exist with the sensation without agenda about making it different. The suggestion sounded insane. Why would I allow pain when I could try to eliminate it? But I was desperate enough to try anything. The next headache came 2 days later, and instead of my usual control response, I just sat with it. I felt the pressure, the intensity, the discomfort. I didn't try to breathe it away or relax it away. I just let it be there, fully felt, without resistance. And something impossible happened. The headache peaked within about 3 minutes and then started dissipating. Within 10 minutes, it was gone completely. No medication, no techniques, no control. Just allowing the sensation to be fully felt without trying to make it different. That experience changed my entire relationship with my body. I realized that my control-based approach had been creating a feedback loop. The headaches would start. I'd go into fear and control mode, and that state of fear and control would intensify the symptoms. My body was mirroring my state of tension back to me as physical tension. When I stopped trying to control the symptoms and just allowed them to be present, the mirroring changed. My body recognized a state of acceptance and ease, and it responded by releasing the tension naturally. Over the next 3 months, the headache frequency decreased by 90%, not because I'd found the right control technique, but because I'd stopped controlling. And in that release of control, my baseline state shifted from health anxiety to health trust. My body mirrored that shift by returning to natural regulation. Here's what's actually happening when you try to control reality. Control is a response to fear. Specifically, it's a response to the fear that if you don't manage outcomes, reality will produce something you don't want, or fail to produce something you do want. That fear might be unconscious, might be rationalized as being responsible or proactive. But underneath every control mechanism is the implicit belief that reality is either hostile or indifferent and requires your intervention to organize itself favorably. That belief, that frequency of mistrust in reality's natural intelligence, is what the quantum field responds to, and it responds by mirroring back exactly what you believe. Situations that seem to require your control, outcomes that don't materialize without force, circumstances that confirm your need to manage everything. The field is being a perfect mirror of your state. You just can't see it because you're too busy trying to control the reflection. When you release control, you're not giving up on desires or becoming passive. You're shifting from a state of fear-based intervention to a state of trust-based responsiveness. You're moving from trying to force reality into compliance to allowing reality to organize itself around your authentic frequency. And your authentic frequency, when nothing is being forced, is vastly more powerful than anything you can generate through control mechanisms. Think about who you are when you're not trying to control anything. When you're completely relaxed, totally present, no agenda about making anything happen. In those moments, you're broadcasting your pure frequency, undistorted by fear, undiluted by force. And that frequency contains everything you genuinely are. Your natural confidence, your inherent wholeness, your authentic preferences, your real state of being. When the quantum field responds to that pure frequency, it mirrors back outcomes that match your actual nature, rather than your fearful attempts to override your nature. This is why manifestations that arrive during periods of surrender feel so aligned, so right, so easy. They're reflecting your authentic frequency rather than your control-based distortions. The relationship that forms when you're not trying to make relationships happen reflects your genuine self rather than your performed self. The opportunity that appears when you're not desperately seeking opportunities reflects your actual value rather than your scarcity-based hustle. The health that emerges when you're not trying to control your body reflects your system's natural intelligence rather than your anxiety-driven interventions. I know what you're thinking. This sounds good philosophically, but how do you actually release control in a world that seems to require constant management? How do you stop trying to control outcomes when outcomes matter, when bills need to be paid, when relationships need attention, when health requires care, when life demands response? The answer isn't to become passive or negligent. It's to learn the difference between responsive action and controlling action. Responsive action flows from presence to what actually is. Controlling action flows from fear about what might be. They look similar from the outside, but they come from completely different internal states and produce completely different outcomes. Let me give you the practice that shifted everything for me. It's deceptively simple, which is why most people dismiss it before trying it consistently. But this practice, maintained for 90 days, will dissolve control mechanisms you didn't even know you were running. Every morning before you begin your day, before you check your phone, before you start planning or thinking about what needs to happen, sit quietly for 5 minutes and feel into your body. Not to change anything, not to achieve any state, just to notice what's actually present. Tension, ease, anxiety, calm, whatever is there. Then make this statement internally. Today I release control of outcomes. I trust reality to organize itself around my authentic frequency. I respond to what is rather than forcing what I think should be. That statement isn't an affirmation you're trying to believe. It's a declaration that reorients your system away from control mode and toward responsive mode. You're not saying you believe reality will organize itself favorably. You're saying you're willing to find out what happens when you stop trying to force it to. Then, throughout your day, every time you notice yourself trying to control an outcome, rehearsing a conversation, planning how someone should respond, mentally managing circumstances, pause, take one breath, feel into your body again, and ask, what would I do right now if I wasn't trying to control this outcome? The answer that emerges will be different from your control-based impulse. The control impulse says, text them again to make sure they respond. The responsive impulse says, I've communicated clearly, now I wait. The control impulse says, work 3 more hours to force this project forward. The responsive impulse says, I've done what I can today. Rest will serve better than force. The control impulse says, obsess about this symptom and research solutions. The responsive impulse says, notice the symptom without making it mean something catastrophic. This practice isn't about being perfect or eliminating all control immediately. It's about building awareness of when you're in control mode versus responsive mode. And over time, as you practice responding rather than controlling, your baseline state shifts. You spend less time in the frequency of fear and force, and more time in the frequency of trust and ease. And here's what I need you to understand about that shift. The moment your baseline frequency changes, reality's reflection changes. Not gradually, immediately. Because the field is always responding to your current state in real time. When you're in control mode, it mirrors control-based outcomes. When you shift to responsive mode, even for a few hours, it mirrors responsive outcomes. You don't have to maintain perfect release of control for reality to start reflecting your shifted state. You just need the shift to be genuine when it's present. In the comments, share one commitment you're making today to release control in a specific area. It could be as simple as stop micromanaging my relationship, or trust my body's intelligence, or let opportunities come to me. Your commitment matters. Your declaration shifts your frequency. Let this be your first step into responsive mode. After 30 days of this practice, you'll notice small changes. Situations that usually trigger control behavior won't feel as urgent. Outcomes you typically try to force will start materializing without your intervention. People will respond to you differently because your energy has shifted from controlling to trusting. These small changes are evidence that the field is responding to your new frequency. After 60 days, the changes become undeniable. Opportunities appear through channels you weren't monitoring. Solutions emerge for problems you stopped trying to solve. Relationships improve without you trying to fix them. Health issues resolve without obsessive management. You'll look back at how you were operating in control mode and wonder how you sustained that level of exhausting effort for so long. After 90 days, if you've practiced consistently, control mechanisms that once felt necessary will feel absurd. You'll see clearly that reality organizes itself far more intelligently than you ever could through force. You'll recognize that your authentic frequency, when undistorted by control, attracts and creates outcomes more aligned than anything you could strategize your way to. And you'll understand experientially that the quantum field is a mirror, not an opponent. It's not resisting you. It's reflecting you with perfect precision. There's something you need to know about what happens when you genuinely release control. something that most manifestation teaching doesn't prepare you for because it's uncomfortable to acknowledge. When you stop trying to control reality, you discover which of your desires were authentic and which were compensatory. Authentic desires emerge from your genuine nature. They feel light, exciting, aligned even when unmanifested. Compensatory desires emerge from fear, lack, or the belief that you need something external to be complete. They feel heavy, urgent, necessary for your worth or safety. When you're in control mode, both types of desires feel equally compelling because control mode is driven by the fear that you won't get what you need. But when you release control, when you let your baseline state settle into trust and sufficiency, compensatory desires start dissolving. You realize you don't actually want that thing you were trying so hard to manifest. You wanted the feeling you thought it would give you. And that feeling is already available when you're not in control-based scarcity. This can be disorienting. You might discover that the relationship you are trying to attract isn't actually aligned with who you are when you're not operating from loneliness. The business success you were forcing isn't actually what you want when you're not operating from the need to prove your worth. The lifestyle you were manifesting isn't actually appealing when you're not operating from comparison and lack. But here's what's extraordinary about this dissolution. When compensatory desires fall away, your authentic desires become crystal clear. And those authentic desires manifest with a speed and ease that makes your previous control-based efforts look absurd, because authentic desires are already aligned with your genuine frequency. The field doesn't have to overcome resistance or fear or compensatory distortion. It just mirrors back what you actually are when all the control-based layers are stripped away. I discovered this when I released control around career outcomes. I'd been trying to build a specific type of business because I thought that's what success looked like, what would prove I'd made it. I forced strategies, pushed for growth, controlled every variable. The business grew slowly and felt exhausting. When I released control and let my system settle into its authentic state, I realized I didn't actually want that business model. I wanted creative freedom and meaningful work. And the business I'd been building was moving me away from both. Within 6 weeks of that recognition, opportunities emerged that aligned with my authentic desires, not through any action I took, through the field responding to my shifted frequency. People reached out with projects I actually wanted to do. Collaborations formed that felt energizing rather than depleting. Income increased while my work hours decreased. The authentic path revealed itself the moment I stopped controlling my way down the inauthentic path. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to stay connected and hit the bell icon to get notified. You're stepping into a space where we explore the actual mechanics of consciousness and reality. This isn't just a channel, it's a community of people learning to trust the mirror. If you felt something shift while watching, you're already changing your relationship with control. Let's keep exploring together. Here's the final piece you need to understand. The quantum field is mirroring you right now. Your current life, your current circumstances, your current outcomes, all of it is a precise reflection of your baseline frequency. Not your desires, not your intentions, not your affirmations. Your actual state when nothing is being performed or forced. If you don't like what you're experiencing, the question isn't how to control outcomes better. The question is, what state are you in that's being mirrored so accurately? Are you in trust or fear, sufficiency or lack, ease or force? The reflection will tell you with perfect accuracy. Most people resist this truth because it feels like blame. If reality is mirroring me, then my current struggles are my fault. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying your current struggles are information about your current state. And your current state is changeable, not through controlling your way to a different state, but through releasing the control mechanisms that keep you locked in states of fear and force. When you release control, your authentic state emerges. And that authentic state, undistorted by fear-based intervention, is vastly more resourced, more confident, more aligned, more powerful than any state you can generate through control. The field responds to that authentic power by mirroring back outcomes that match it. Outcomes that feel easy, aligned, right, in a way that control-based manifestations never do. You don't need to attract what you want. You need to become who you actually are beneath all the control mechanisms. And when you become that, when you exist in that authentic frequency without trying to force reality into compliance, reality mirrors you perfectly. It gives you exactly what matches your genuine state. Share this with someone who's been exhausting themselves trying to control their way to success. You know who they are. That friend who's managing every detail and wondering why nothing flows. That family member who's forcing outcomes and feeling depleted. Make sure you share this video. For you, it may be just sharing, but for someone, it may be the permission they needed to finally let go. Someone who's ready to trust the mirror instead of fighting the reflection. And their relief will amplify the ease flowing back to you. Stop trying to control the mirror. Step back from it. Settle into your authentic frequency and watch what gets reflected when you're not trying to force the reflection to be something it's not. The mirror is always accurate. The question is whether you're willing to see what it's reflecting, and whether you're willing to shift your state instead of trying to control the reflection. Reality is waiting to mirror the real you, not the controlling you, not the fearful you, not the forcing you, the authentic you that exists when all that falls away. Release control. Trust the mirror. Let reality show you what you actually are when you stop trying to be something you think you should be. Everything changes when you do. Not because you made it change, because you stopped preventing it from reflecting your truth. The mirror never lies. It's been showing you exactly what you are all along. You just couldn't see it clearly while you were trying to control what it showed.